As of this time, here's what we know so far. The President is meeting with Health Officer in Charge, Maria Rosario Vergere, on the COVID-19 alert status for the rest of the month and other pandemic response measures. Now, while the government prepares for the opening of the new school year and the return of in-person classes later on, a teachers group calls on Congress to prioritize bills raising the budget for education and teachers' pay. ACT Philippines held a protest action in front of the Batasan Pambansa in Quezon City earlier today. The group says the low salary of teachers is no longer enough for their families' needs, considering the prices of basic goods and services are still rising. Aside from salary upgrades, the group also wants the urgent doubling of school maintenance and operating budgets, saying this will help them prepare for a safe school reopening. Congress is set to open on Monday, July 25th, the same day President Marcos delivers his first State of the Nation address. House Majority Leader Martin Romualdez says one of their priority bills will be the national budget. Romualdez says they will pass it within the third or last quarter of the year so the President can sign it into law before the year ends. Economic managers earlier said they will submit to Congress the proposed 5.23 trillion peso 2023 budget on August 22nd.
First of all, usually the budget, no? And then there's some follow-ons on what we have already passed in the House, but not in the Senate in the previous 18th Congress. So a number of those have already been refiled. But yes, the President has already mentioned it, in various fora. And so we will not limit it to 5, but we will limit to that. We will delimit it and rather focus on that whole basket of legislation. But they're already been filed. I think we've made it clear as to what we will take up, and we are confident that we will do this within the first regular session. We will pass all these measures within the first regular session.
Romualdez, who is a first cousin to Mr. Marcos, is poised to be the next House Speaker. When asked about the composition of Congress, he says no hindrances are expected, adding that he is looking forward to a, quote, very smooth functioning Congress, both in the Senate and the House of Representatives, unquote. Romualdez also had this to say about the next Majority Leader.
We'll let you know next week. So, we'll try to get those who are willing to make the sacrifice of hard work and getting a consensus to help us in these measures. Or in consultation with the House leadership, we'll go back to our time-honored traditions of having the respective parties properly represented. We will go by also, for the most part, seniority, merit, experience, and of course, the initiative to make the sacrifice of the hard work needed for each of the committees.
It is all systems go for President Marcos's first sauna next week. House Secretary General Mark Leandro Mendoza says over 1,300 people are expected to attend the sauna on Monday, July 25th at the Batasan. Invited guests include former presidents, vice presidents, and speakers, the diplomatic corps, and justices. Mendoza adds health protocols are also in place.
I-require natin na lahat ng papasok ng plenary hall must present a negative RT-PCR test within 48 hours. May negative RT-PCR tayo, not unless na magdagdag ng additional safety nets ang Malacanang. Not unless require kami magdagdagan pa. Yung antigen, depende pa kung magbibigay sila ng order na bukod po dun sa RT-PCR requirement, kung magdadagdag pa tayo ng antigen testing natin.
Well, as we said earlier, the opening of the 19th Congress happens on Monday. We'll bring you live pictures beginning at 9:30 in the morning that capture special coverage of the President's first sauna beginning at 2 p.m. only here on CNN Philippines. Straight ahead on Newsnight, motorists set to get some relief with fuel companies slashing prices beginning tomorrow, while transport regulators vow to fast-track delayed payments for drivers of the EDSA bus carousel. And how does the Marcos administration plan to respond to the International Criminal Court's probe into the Duterte government's drug war? You're watching CNN Philippines.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay SMC. San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Ito ang RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKT 1071 sa inyong mga radyo, ang Radyo Honda sa Davao.
Bilib ako sa MX3 dahil ito ay napatunayang may alpha.
Fuel companies will reduce gasoline prices by 5 pesos per liter and diesel by 2 pesos per liter. Expect cheaper kerosene prices as well, with a rollback of 70 centavos per liter. Now, this marks the third fuel price cut in weeks. Transport regulators vow to fast-track payments for the EDSA bus carousel program as drivers complain about delays. The LTFRB and Transport Secretary Jaime Bautista met with groups operating the EDSA bus carousel today. The LTFRB plans to update payments by the end of this month. The agency says delays began during the 6th week of the program, which was launched late March. The LTFRB says it has partially paid up to the 10th week. Drivers are hoping to get their wages soon, as some of them are already facing mounting debts because of the delays. Page of Year 5, this story.
Some drivers and conductors on board the Libreng Sakay program have no choice but to wait for their salaries. They have nothing against the service contracting program of the government, but they are crying foul over the delay in payments. Some of those we spoke to have yet to receive their wages.
Delay po kasi may 1.5 months pa kaming hindi nababayaran na sahod. Yung last po namin, May pa yun.
Delay po kami ngayon ng ano. Kasi June 4 pala po kami yung naging huling sahod po namin.
The government has allotted 7 billion pesos for the program. Under this, drivers and operators receive a one-time payout and weekly salary depending on the distance. They want to know what's keeping them from getting their pay.
Pagka nagtanong po kami, sabi naman na pagka nagtanong ko sa LTFRB, sabi bayad na raw, ganyan. Kaya po napangahirap din kami.
Yung sabi naman po, delay daw yung bayad ng gobyerno sa operator.
Buklod ng manggagawa sa ES Transport President Joji Visconde says the Labor Department called for a dialogue on the matter. They earlier claimed the unpaid dues and incentives in 2021 reached 20 million pesos. But he says there is still no resolution on their case. Drivers hope they receive their salaries on time after serving the public, especially commuters.
Sana pantay-pantay, mapapaganda yung mga commuter natin dahil nakakaminus sila sa gastusin. Sana ganun din sa mga empleyado kasi pare-parehas naman po may pamilya.
Paige Javier, CNN Philippines.
Apart from the late payments, the LTFRB and DOTR discussed the maximum deployment of units during rush hour. Instead of the current 200, operators want to increase the number of units to more than half to serve more passengers. In other news, the International Criminal Court is giving the Philippines until September 8 to comment on the reopening of the investigation into the Duterte administration's bloody war on drugs. Chrissy Di Matulak tells us how the government plans to respond.
The government is looking at ways to respond to the invitation of the International Criminal Court for it to comment on the resumption of the past administration's drug war probe. In a message to the media, Solicitor General Menardo Guevara says his office is considering a number of options, such as challenging the jurisdiction of the ICC. The OSG is also considering if it will leave its communication lines open with the International Court. Guevara says consultations will be conducted with the Foreign Affairs Department, Justice Department, international law experts, and the Office of the President. In the meantime, Senator Bato de la Rosa says the country has a working and functioning justice system. The lawmaker was formerly the lead in the drug war as National Police Chief. Aside from former President Rodrigo Duterte, De La Rosa is also being investigated for alleged crimes against humanity. According to the National Union of People's Lawyers, the government's compliance to ICC's request under the term of President Bongbong Marcos can assure justice to the victims.
If there is really going to be any immunity, then it should be immunity on the basis of respect for human rights and the rule of law and the recognition of international mechanisms as a legitimate forum for accountability. No?
The investigation on the drug war was suspended in November 2021 after the Philippines requested to defer the probe. In 2019, the Philippines pulled out of the ICC, claiming that the Rome Statute, the treaty which established the ICC, was not ratified. However, human rights lawyer Chrissy Conti says the court still has jurisdiction over the investigation.
The Supreme Court said that we still have residual obligations with regard to ICC proceedings. In the Rome Statute, in its rules, when we signed it, we committed ourselves to continue to cooperate once a case or one situation has come under the purview of the OPP, of the Office of the Prosecutor.
According to the Office of the Solicitor General, President Bongbong Marcos has yet to discuss the ICC investigation. Chrissy Di Matulak, CNN Philippines.
Government data counts 7,000 deaths in the drug war, but local and international human rights groups estimate the numbers are between 12 to 30,000. Senator De La Rosa also says he will not cooperate with the ICC should it resume its investigation into the drug war. He maintains it is an insult to the country's justice system. Senator Robin Padilla echoes the sentiment, saying the probe sets a precedent for foreign interference.
Hindi nila alam kung ano nangyari dito sa atin. Hindi nila alam kung anong problema natin dito. Bakit sila magkikialam? Di ba? Oo. Harap ako, magpatry ako before a Filipino court, not a foreign court.
Sayang ang sinakripisyo ng mga bayani natin kung maghahari-harian dito, foreigner, di ba? Siguro, pwedeng ICC, payagan natin sila, observer.
Senator Nancy Binay, however, urges the government to submit to the legal process in the, quote, interest of transparency, while Senator Coco Pimentel calls on the ICC to make a final decision on what it wants to do regarding the probe so that the government can respond accordingly. Switching gears, National Security Advisor Clarita Carlos has yet to decide whether to change policies in the West Philippine Sea or retain those of the Duterte administration. Carlos met with Coast Guard officials at their headquarters in Manila today to discuss border security in the West Philippine Sea, the Philippine Rise, as well as in Mindanao. Here's what she and the PCG have to say about the direction of the National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea under the new administration.
We're going to have another meeting next week, so we're just really trying to figure out who is going to do what and so on. So let me understand it first before I make any comment. I'm sorry.
Inalam din namin kung anong mga protocols at saka mga policies ang mga mababago doon sa mga dating mga pina-follow natin.
Carlos was at the Coast Guard headquarters as part of her visits to agency members of the National Security Council. The Foreign Affairs Department raises the alert level to 2 in Sri Lanka, which is battling a political and economic crisis. This means there will be no new deployment of workers to the South Asian country, and only those with live contracts are allowed to return. Overseas Workers Welfare Administration Chief Hans Kakdak says the government is now preparing a repatriation flight for Filipino nationals there.
May kailangan sa tulong sa transport, we can come in to help, but also yung pagbalik ng mga repatriates ng OFWs, we can provide livelihood assistance as well as food assistance for OFW, for children of active OWA members, food, water, vitamins, hygiene necessities. We can provide this, we can arrange this, and request yung mga those identified by the DFA on the ground to distribute.
There are around 700 Filipinos in Sri Lanka. In China, thousands of tourists are trapped in a resort town as authorities enforce a snap lockdown because of rising COVID-19 cases. Over 500 infections were reported in Beihai, a known tourist spot in southern China. Visitors identified as contacts will have to stay in the city and undergo quarantine. India marks a milestone in its COVID-19 response despite surging infections. Vaccination numbers hit 2 billion over the weekend, with boosters underway for adults. India's daily cases rose to over 20,500 on Sunday, the highest since February 20. The United States extends its COVID-19 public health emergency for another 3 months, or until October 13th. It comes as the U.S. reports its highest cases, hospitalizations, and deaths in months. The emergency was first declared in January 2020. Top health officials raised the alarm over the spread of monkeypox, with the COVID-19 infection soaring yet again in the U.S. CNN's Cole Higgins reports the monkeypox outbreak should be taken more seriously.
Monkeypox has been detected throughout most of the U.S. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, there are cases in at least 45 states and jurisdictions. And now the CDC reporting there are at least 1,814 probable or confirmed monkeypox cases across the country, causing some top health officials to warn the window to contain the virus may already be closed.
We made a lot of the same mistakes that we made with COVID with this, having a very narrow case definition, not having enough testing. And while it's not going to explode because it's harder for this virus to spread, it's probably going to be persistent. You'll have this as a sort of fact of life.
Worldwide, monkeypox cases surpassing 12,000, and officials say the real numbers are likely higher.
You're always probably looking at what might be, we don't know, the tip of the iceberg. So that's the reason why we've got to get the testing out there in a much more vigorous way.
Dr. Fauci says more testing will be done, with 5 commercial testing laboratories coming online. He also expects up to 700,000 vaccines to be distributed to communities by the end of July. Fauci and other top health officials also worrying about the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic in the U.S. Fueled by the Omicron offshoot BA.5, daily COVID-19 case rates are surging again, and hospitalizations and deaths are also up.
We've got to stay on top of this virus. We've got to keep building new generations of vaccines. We've got to make sure we have adequate treatments. We can get through this.
I'm Cole Higgins reporting.
Up next, the Filipinas proved to be the best in Southeast Asia after beating Thailand for the AFF Women's Championship. Plus, Hollywood A-listers Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck are now married again. Keep it here on Newsnight.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industria ang sudlan nini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement, Ato ni Bay SMC San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Ito ang RBN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKT 1071 sa inyong mga radyo, ang Radyo Ronda sa Davao.
Welcome back. Her story for the Philippine women's football team. The Filipinas exact revenge on regional powerhouse Thailand, winning their first ASEAN Football Federation Women's Championship title. But there's no stopping the new football queens as they look to slay more giants in Asia. A training camp is in the works for the team in late August to September. Head coach Alan Stajic says they plan to set up friendlies with other nations like New Zealand.
We've come a long way, but you know, not for 1 second do we underestimate how tough the challenge is going to be moving forward to rise even higher up the ranks of the world and compete, you know, really for the big prizes in world football. For us to be stronger, we need to identify better players around the world, and we need a better development pathway here in the Philippines as well.
Pauline Versosa takes us back to the moment the Filipinas became the new football queens of Southeast Asia.
For the first time, the Philippine women's football team has emerged on top in Southeast Asia. On Sunday, the Filipinas clinched their first ever crown in any tournament after defeating Thailand 3-0 in a fierce finals showdown in the 2022 AFF Women's Championship. Right from kickoff, the Filipinas came out guns blazing, and as early as the 8th minute, a corner kick by team captain Tanay Anis would find Jessica Cowart to give them a dream start. The Filipinas continued to crack their opponent's defense as Katrina Gilyu found the back of the net, doubling the team's lead at the 20th. Thailand remained scoreless entering the second half. Still, the Filipinas did not let their defense down, with goalkeeper Olivia McDaniel determined to keep a clean sheet. In the 89th minute, top striker Serena Bolden delivered the dagger with a header from a corner by Sarah Egishvik, sealing their title as the new queens of football in the region.
There's no magic, it's lots of hard work and training and lots of discipline and dedication from everyone, and really it's a whole team effort. This group is on the up, and you know, we're an evolving and an emerging team, and you know, I think that we've shown that we can definitely be a threat in Southeast Asia. Our job now is to become a powerhouse in Asia as well.
This marks another milestone for the Filipinas after booking a historic ticket to the 2023 FIFA World Cup in January and clinching historic semi-final seats during the AFC Asian Cup and 31st Southeast Asian Games.
I think we're just really starting to believe in ourselves and really trust what we're doing. This is just the start. We're going to keep getting better, and we're going to give everyone a show next year at the World Cup.
Bolden, who emerged as the tournament's top scorer with 8 goals, also gave credit to those who paved the way for the team's success.
You know, when you stick with something and you believe in it, only good can come out of it. Like, we worked so hard, you know, girls on the team that have been here before I have even been on the team have worked and dedicated their lives to this, and to finally see it come to fruition is just so beautiful.
The Filipinas' victory was fueled by the electrifying support of over 8,000 fans at the Rizal Memorial Stadium.
I brought my Philippine flag. You know, playing on home field it's just your hair stands up. You hear them, Isapa, you know, it's a different experience altogether, and I'm just proud of them.
I feel great. Wonderful tournament, wonderful crowd tonight. It was exciting, amazing, glad we
could be here for this. I'm super proud of you guys. Can't wait to be back on the field with you.
Congratulations.
And Philippines.
Second time's the charm for Hollywood stars Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck, who have officially tied the knot, sources confirming the couple exchanged vows in an intimate ceremony in Las Vegas in the U.S. state of Nevada on Saturday. The Bennifer love saga is one that took years in the making. The two got engaged in April, over 18 years since they called off their first engagement. Second time to get engaged, first time to be married. And in music, get ready to take a trip down memory lane with your favorite old school songs from the Beatles. Global act Bootleg Beatles is returning to Manila this October. A series of concerts will be held on the dates flashed on your screens in Pasay and in Cebu and Davao City. Tickets go on sale Friday, July 22nd. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program